Hey there, internet friends, and welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions on the thing. This show is made possible entirely by the support of our patrons over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. So if you like the show and you can support us over there, we would definitely appreciate it. But if you can't, no big deal. The fact that you're listening is awesome. And of course, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, ring the notification bell on YouTube, all that fun stuff. So today, joining me, back and forth, we've been bouncing on all month on our Mighty Ducks episodes. And we have Logan Wilkinson back with us. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great, yeah. All we have left is the animated series at this point.
Which I'm not going to bother with that one.
But yeah, we've come to the end of our Mighty Ducks journey here for the time being.
I might sit down.
A season wrap-up?
For a season wrap-up
That's what I was
of
thinking.
the series that's going on right now. But that's got like another, I don't know, month or two to get. Maybe like 5 or 6 episodes to go still. So
it'll allow me to catch up too. But yeah, we're at the end of the trilogy of Mighty Ducks movies here, Trev.
Yep, little ping-ponging back and forth between you and Cameron as my co-hosts on these. You were with me for the Mighty Ducks, the first movie. Cam was here for D2 last week, as well as the first episode of the TV show that we did a couple weeks prior to that. So, and we were, as I've kind of been saying all along, we were supposed to try and get everybody together, but Cam had some things come up, so he was unable to join us for this episode. So it is just Logan and me talking here about D3, the Mighty Ducks. And yeah, I'm very glad this is over at this point, really, because the downward slope of quality in these movies is not at all what I remembered. Like I knew I didn't really I have like the best memories of this third one, but I did not think I was going to be this angry after watching the third movie this time around. So let's dive into a little bit of the history lesson. This one was originally released October 4th, 1996, so basically 4 years after the first movie. They'd really kind of crank these out every 2 years. Other notable releases of the time, you had Fly Away Home, which I remember growing up. That was the Geese movie with Anna Paquin. We had, which I bring up because it's, ducks fly together, and the Flying V is
I had
is
totally
in
forgotten about that movie
effectively.
until you mentioned Anna Paquin.
Yeah.
True
Rogue, pre X-Men, Anna Paquin.
Also that.
Yeah, and True Blood as well, yeah. You had The First Wives Club, came out September 20th, 1996.
Yeah.
You had That Thing You Do, came out the same day as Mighty Ducks 3 here, October 4th, 1996. Sleepers.
Box office battle.
Sleepers came out October 18th, 96, which I remember, I didn't end up seeing that one until like a class in college. I don't even remember why I saw it in like a sociology class in college or something, but it's a really good movie, so definitely check it out. And then I brought this up just because Logan and I love anytime we can nerd out about Shakespeare stuff. Twelfth Night, featuring Helena Bonham Carter as the lead role of Viola, came out October 31st, 1996. So pulling that together here. This, just like the last movie, has a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes, and this one feels it way more. In the Disney live-action timeline of things, you had Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco, came out March 8th of 96, followed by First Kid, which came out August 30th of 96. Right. Then we had D3, The Mighty Ducks here, October 4th. Followed by the live-action 101 Dalmatians that would come out in November 27th of 96. And then yet another reboot of a Disney animal movie. You had the Christina Ricci That Darn Cat that came out February 14th, 1997. A little bit of the roll call here. Won't do too deep into this because there's going to be so much like carryover from other movies.
Repeat,
but we do have a brand new director here in Robert Lieberman, who had really only done a handful of TV movies prior to this, and then he has done a handful of TV shows after, but really nothing too much of note. Stephen Brill here, once again, the writer, who'd done the characters and screenplay for this, had done the whole original trilogy, as well as Heavyweights, Ready to Rumble, and Little Nicky, which we've talked about before. But joining him for this, I believe this is the first time he had kind of co-writers. We had Jim Bernstein, who worked on the story and screenplay. And prior to that, he had done Renaissance Man, which was the only one that really jumped out at me, which, if I recall correctly, was like a Danny DeVito military movie or something like that from around this time. And then he did a couple miscellaneous things after that. And then Kenneth Johnson also worked on the story for this one. He had done a lot of TV, going back to things like The $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman, as well as the Incredible Hulk TV series. And he was a creator, if not the creator, of the 80s sci-fi series V, which would then get like a reboot, I want to say in like the early aughts or something like that. And he, after this, the only thing of note that really jumped out at me is the movie Steel with Shaq. That superhero movie of Shaq being that character. The starring bit, once again, I've kind of broken it out into the adults, the returning kids, and then since this is the one movie where we don't have like new kids joining the team, we just kind of have a little miscellaneous other category here. Adults here, we of course have Emilio Estevez as Gordon Bombay, kind of returning for this movie, as we will touch on in a little bit. We have Jeffrey Nordling taking the main role here as Coach Orion, who would go on to do a few things of note that I caught, including he did a season of 24. He was in the TV show Nashville, and most recently he was in Big Little Lies. David Selby, playing Dean Buckley here, was in the 80s TV show Falcon Crest, as well as he was in The Social Network.
He is in The Social Network, isn't he? Yeah.
And he was Commissioner Gordon in the DC animated Dark Knight Returns. I believe that's a two-parter. You have Heidi Kling coming back as Casey, a.k.a. Charlie's mom, as well as Joss Ackland coming back as Hans, as we touched on in the original Mighty Ducks movie, pretty much just to come in and die. And then in the returning batch of kids, once again, we have Josh Jackson as Charlie Conway, who was, I believe, 2 years away from becoming Pacey on Dawson's Creek at this point. Yeah, which, like, seeing him in this, I'm like, oh, that's like, he had to have already started doing Dawson's Creek at this point. Nope, I checked that. He did not start that until 98. Eldon Henson playing Fulton Reed. Once again, best known as Foggy Nelson in recent years from the Daredevil and Netflix series. Sean Weiss as Goldberg, who had done Heavyweights and as well as the other Mighty Ducks movies. Matt Doherty as Les Averman from Home Alone. I gotta actually pull this one off because Brandon Quinton Adams, aka Jesse Hall, was not in this one. Just kind of unceremoniously dumped. Garrett Ratcliffe Henson playing Guy Germain, had done again the Captain America terrible 1990 movie. Margaret Moreau as Connie, best known maybe to another audience from Wet Hot American Summer. Vincent LaRusso as Adam Banks, aka Cake Eater. Colm Jacobs. Here's where we get the people that are new to Logan. Colm Jacobson Durstein, aka Julie the Cat Gaffney, who had prior to this done Rookie of the Year, and then also would go on to be a bit role in Men in Black 2, as well as an uncredited role in the Jon Favreau movie Chef. Aaron Lohr, playing Portman, also making a very late game return in this series. He was in Newsies, and I posed the question to Cameron last week because he's also in a Goofy movie, which was the very first D+ show we did, and I want to pose it to you, Logan, if you have any guesses as to who he was in a Goofy movie.
No.
He plays the singing voice of Max.
That's a piss take. I never would have got that.
Jason Marsden plays the voice, and then Aaron Lohr would come in and do the singing stuff. We also found out he is now married to Idina Menzel, I guess.
Is he really?
Yeah, that was a whole thing. Like Cameron
Shout
found
out
out
to
what
him.
we were doing.
All right, yeah.
Apparently, her and Taye Diggs had split at some point, and he came in. He also, I pulled this, and so I'm glad you are joining me this week, and I get to reuse it because otherwise it was pulled for naught. He is in Jack and Daxter, the precursor or legacy. You want to take a guess as to who he is in Jack and Daxter?
Is he one of the sages?
No, he is not.
Ooh, okay. He's not Jack or Dexter.
Is he not?
Is he Jack?
He is the uncredited voice of Jack.
Is he really?
From the game in which Jack
Jack doesn't talk.
Doesn't talk, yeah. Yeah. But like I'm guessing he did the grunts or whatever.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Who voices Jack in Jack 2 and 3?
I have no idea.
But a different person?
Not him, different person though.
Yeah, interesting.
He did not have those credits. And then he also is in Rent, the live action version of Rent.
Oh.
Where
Who's he in Rent?
He plays I want to say it was Steve, I believe is the character's name. It's the song that they sing at the support group, and he basically is the lead soloist in that. So he starts it off with, "Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care?" And goes on from there. And I remember when that movie came out. I told this story last week, but when Rent came out, as a big fan of Rent from college and stuff like that. Seeing him, I devoured IMDb at the time, and seeing him and realizing that it was Portman from Mighty Ducks was in Rent. I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. And then, I love that Cam brought it full circle by informing us that, he and Idina Menzel have been together for a few years now. Yep. We have Ty O'Neill returning as Dwayne, who, apart from D2, D3, his biggest other credit on his IMDb was as an uncredited living portrait in Wild Wild West. You have Keenan Thompson, who, of course, has gotten a lot of love in recent weeks on both this show as well as that Nerdy Site show, playing Russ. Previously had done All That, and Keenan and would go on to do things like Keenan Kel, Good Burger, and of course, he's now the longest running cast member on SNL.
Emmy Award winning one too.
Yeah, there you go. Mike Vitar playing Luis would between D2 and D3 went on and did The Sandlot. He is Benny the Jet Rodriguez. And then Justin Wong playing Kenny Wu. Really only did D2 and D3. Nothing really else of note there. A few other people worth mentioning here. Christopher Orr, who's Rick, seems like he was in a lot of other things, but I did not see too much. He's like the sleazy, slimy bad guy. You have Michael Kudlitz being Cole, the big buzz cut kind of guy, who I believe in one of the little bits of trivia is his look was fashioned after Biff from Back to the Future. He has been basically a million other cop and military type roles over the years.
Yeah.
Most notably, he was in Southland and The Walking Dead, and he's currently on the TV show Clarice. And
I will also, if since you didn't add it on there, but since it is arguably my favorite television program of all time, certainly my top 3 or 4, he's also a key character in Band of Brothers as well.
Yes, yeah, I did see that. I just didn't know, I saw his name in Band of Brothers. I just didn't know how pivotal he was. Before diving into the rest of the others, I do want to pull this little bit from the trivia. Michael Kudlitz, who plays Cole, is only 2 years younger than Emilio Estevez.
That's what I was wondering. When I saw him in particular, I was like, is he this young? Because then he would have been really young in Band of Brothers. Yeah. I was like I knew the varsity guys were all definitely in their 20s probably, but I was like, he seems to be an adult. Yeah. Actually a grown-ass man.
Kudlitz is older than most of the Mighty Ducks in the movie by 12 to 15 years.
Jesus, God.
Yeah. Yeah. And he definitely kind of looks it. Scott White returns, who previously in D2...
Professor RPG?
A different Scott White. Nice pull. He plays Scooter here, the goalie. And in D2, he was gunner for the Iceland team. He was basically one of the main Iceland scorer kind of thing.
Interesting.
And it came up in last week's episode that there were a couple bits of trivia that were Scott White's favorite line from the movie is blah, blah, blah. And Scott White, it was Scott White also would go on in D3 to play blah, blah, blah. Both characters of which have a little thing for Julie the Cat Gaffney. And I joked last week of These two combined tell me Scott White has an IMDb Pro account and can add trivia to the Mighty Ducks movies. You have Margot Finley here as Linda, who is Charlie's little like crush throughout the movie. Nothing really of note from her. She hasn't done anything since 2000. Benjamin Salisbury, announcer Josh.
Yeah. This dude.
So like I pull him in here because you might recognize him, Logan, because he has a tie to. I'll give you the hint. He is like a 6 degrees of separation to Mom Has a Date with a Vampire.
Oh God. Is he in The Nanny?
Mm-hmm. He was one of the kids in The Nanny. Yep.
Yeah, hell yeah.
This was basically like smack in the middle of the Nanny run.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. He's like the son of Maxwell, I think. Yep. Okay, perfect. Yep.
And then the last one I pulled in here, Jack White playing Coach Wilson, who's basically the varsity coach, who you may have recognized in prior movies because he was a ref in the other Mighty Ducks movies, going back to D1 as well as in D2. And he was the hockey advisor basically across all of the Mighty Ducks films.
That's really cool.
So yeah, that
really
was
cool.
kind of his little cameo in this.
Can we talk about how quickly I got that 6 degree separation?
The Nanny bit?
I was like, oh, is he from The Nanny? Is he? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's The Nanny's such a great show. I bring that to Disney Plus. We can do a Nanny podcast. Nanny's great.
Yeah, I can do without it. Diving into some more trivia. When Charlie gets kicked off the team by Coach Orion after the, quote, unofficial JV varsity showdown, the only other player to join Charlie in leaving the team is Fulton. This is fitting, since Fulton and Charlie were the first two players to agree to become Ducks in the first movie. They were also the only two players to show up to the game that they were forced to forfeit since the rest of the team walked out on Bombay in the first movie.
Those guys are blood brothers for life, man, all right?
Yeah.
Also the two most successful kid actors.
Yep, there you go. The heart and soul of the Ducks, you might say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brandon Quinton Adams, as I mentioned, who played Jesse Hall in the first two films, isn't in the movie. No recognition is given to him, and the same happened with several Ducks going from the first film to the second, which we covered in last week's episode. There was like a little bit of trivia on IMDb that was basically that alleges that there may have been beef between him and Keenan Thompson, but I don't know if that's true or not. Sure. Again, did the one on Michael Kudlitz. Emilio Estevez, Josh Jackson, Elton Henson, Sean Weiss, Matt Doherty, Garrett Radcliffe Henson, Marguerite Moreau, and Vincent LaRusso are the only actors to appear in all three Mighty Ducks movies, with the exception of Stephen Brill, who was the writer of the series, also makes appearances in all three films. In the first film, he was Bombay's rival lawyer, Frank Huddy, at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. In the second film, he played a party guest who talks to Coach Bombay about Pat Riley. And then in this film, he is the game attendant at the Mall of America when Charlie and Fulton are playing hooky. So, little writer cameo across all three films. In D2, The Mighty Ducks, Hans' brother Jan mentions that Charlie's mother, Casey, got remarried between the first two films. There is absolutely no mention of her still being married in this film, and if you pay close enough attention, you'll easily notice I love it. If you pay close enough attention, you'll easily notice that she is not wearing a wedding ring at any point in the movie, so it is implied that she is divorced again.
I will say, if I can interject at this point, I would argue the movie almost seems to suggest that her and Bombay are like a thing again, almost like the way that they're together at the beginning of the movie, and then like that thing. It's like they like. It's really interesting to watch this series without like the middle act, basically. Where it's like, it's just a seamless tradition. Like they were together at the end of the first movie, and they're together here, and it's like in the middle, she apparently got remarried and then divorced in the time in between. It's like, nah, in my headcanon, just. They were together the whole time. That makes way more sense.
That's fair.
That's where we end.
I guess if you were to watch again, bring it back to Karate Kid or something. If you watched just the first and third Karate Kid movies, you would have no idea that like the second movie they just go to Japan. Just like in this one, like hey, if you didn't really watch those, you had no idea that they were in the Junior Goodwill Games or whatever. Yeah. Like it's mentioned a little bit or whatever, but. Claudia Wilkins, who played the principal in The Mighty Ducks, has a cameo as the teacher who gives multiple tests per week. I caught that when I was making my notes for the game. I was like, wait a minute, she looks familiar. Like she apparently got they drove her away from her principalship, and now she's teaching at this Ivy League prep school or whatever.
And they drove her crazy there, probably.
Yeah, probably. Or she's getting her revenge. I mentioned this to Logan before we started recording, but despite being given top billing, Emilio Estevez only appears as Gordon Bombay at the beginning of the film, during the middle scene with Charlie, and slightly towards the end of the film. Altogether, he has less than 20 minutes of screen time. He was busy filming The War at Home, and he wasn't able to devote much time to this film, hence the much smaller role than in the past two films. He agreed to a smaller role in the film for free in exchange for Disney helping fund The War at Home for him. So that explains basically why he's not why he's not a presence in this film. Similar to that, in later interviews, Joshua Jackson admitted to having little to no interest in doing another Mighty Ducks movie, and he was ready to move on to more adult roles. He has said he used a lot of that attitude in his portrayal of Charlie Conway in this film, as the script calls for Charlie to be more rebellious and moody, so he channeled his feelings at the time of doing another Mighty Ducks movie through the role.
Interesting.
This was a fun little one. Despite being a prominent character in all three movies, Averman only scores one goal in the entire trilogy. This is the first and only film in the trilogy where Charlie shares any screen time and dialogue with Hans, despite it, being set up that they have this, real heart-to-heart relationship. Obviously, he had that with Jan in the last movie, really. Also, while Bombay and Hans interacted quite a bit in the first film, they share no dialogue or screen time in this film other than standing by each other briefly during the film's opening scene when the Ducks are receiving their scholarships. And then lastly here, the three players the Ducks put on the ice during the final play of the Big Showdown are the ones who score the winning goal in the final game of each film in the trilogy. Charlie Conway scored the winning goal against the Hawks in the first film, Adam Banks scored the deciding goal in the shootout against Iceland in the sequel, and Goldberg scores the winning goal in this movie. Yeah, right. That was a choice. So what do you think, Logan? Let's talk about this one. What'd you think of this one? How does it hold up?
So I'm gonna give it like a context thing too, where, like I mentioned 2 episodes ago on this, where I love the original Mighty Ducks movie. This is a series in general that I really love, and like I kind of talked about how like it is a little bit like My Karate Kid arc in some ways. It's the '90s version essentially.
Yep.
And I think, especially having watched it again multiple times, actually, the first in the last like few weeks, that the first Mighty Ducks movie is still great. Like, I legitimately think that movie is a great movie for what it's trying to do, and a great like kids/adult like movie. I think it's great. And that movie centered very noticeably, and I think importantly, around none of the kids, but around Gordon Bombay and his struggle and his journey and his arc in that movie. And I think even for the faults in the second movie, Gordon Bombay is still an integral part of that movie. And it still is, in a lot of ways, his arc still being kind of going on, and how he kind of recovers from everything that's happening there. This movie, I think you feel the absence of Emilio Estevez throughout almost all of it. And it doesn't help that they reference him a lot too, and that pretty much, especially the scene in the middle of the movie, when he kind of makes his appearance again, like to talk to Charlie and everything, I think is really like the best part of the movie. And it's like, wow, I wish we had like a whole movie of these two people together, and not the rest of the movie around it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's clearly the weakest movie in the series. I alluded to this 2 episodes ago in the first Mighty Ducks movie, that it wasn't that great. It's not. It's worse than I thought it would be, to be fair. But no, I mean, I think they do... The Mighty Ducks series as a whole, I think, a little bit has, like, the Stifler effect happening to it, where, like, over time they take something that actually is, like, pretty mature and has some, like, very serious elements to it at times in the first Mighty Ducks movie. And then by the time you get to the third one, it is a dumb slapstick comedy with like ridiculous over-the-top sound effects in there, and like all of this. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening? I will say that some of that has been there since the beginning. Like, you can go back to that first movie, and you have like the like that was like the one scene, and then you have a similar scene kind of into. But yeah, the fact that, like, I made note of it, the fact that, like, they just have
full-blown cartoon sound effects out of like a Looney Tunes or like a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner sketch, like just in here, is just like laughably terrible. And to your point, like the first movie is very much Gordon's story. I would say starting in the second movie, they really like the shift started happening in that it was like, hey, let's Disneyfy this, and it's not even Charlie. It's about the kids, and then this one just full blown is like it's a Ducks movie, and Gordon's kind of not there. Basically, like because even in the second movie, like Gordon is backburnered for a lot of it in his like quest for sponsorship or whatever, like that whole like that's his arc in the second movie is like he kind of gets greedy when he's introduced to like the amount of money he can be making as like the Team USA coach or whatever, and then he has to kind of like refine himself and again it's like there's a little bit of like kind of copying the first movie, but it really is like if you had kind of like a graph of like Gordon in the movie and the Ducks in the movie or whatever, it would basically be like an X at this point of the Ducks just completely overtaking the beats by 3 here. And yeah, it was just like, oh my God, it was so, I was just like, oh God, this is going to be a long suffering one. But even before we get to like the cartoon effects, I basically have like gone through my notes as I was taking them, and I kind of bolded a few things I definitely wanted. Like even before the sound effects, you have that you mentioning like the Stiflerification of the series. You have Luis like trying to like get with the cheerleader girl or whatever, and like that sequence ends with him like crawling under the table or whatever, and doing a straight to the camera, breaking the fourth wall take, and I was just like,
yeah,
what the hell is that? And then like a scene or two later, it's like, oh, the kids are back to like I almost was ready to be like, hey, that's a fun callback to the first movie where they're like back to messing around with like shit again, and like using that as a prank, when Cole basically like takes the manure out of the lunch bag. But then it goes into full blown like farce, like with the tire screeching and like all of the stupid sound effects that go with that sequence. I was just like, oh my God, this is just terrible. This is just outright terrible. What is going on here? What
it
the
also
hell
just
is
like
this movie?
ends. There's no payoff either.
Yeah.
Just like they just that scene ends.
Yep.
For me, I began to feel uneasy when like it's way before that even. It's when they're all like skating to the thing. And you have the whole extended sequence of like Goldberg skating backwards down an entire like city essentially.
Yep.
And it's like, what is this? So, like, where did this come from?
So even that, like there's a sequence similar to that in D2, not with Goldberg, but it's like when all the kids are coming back together and they just go like skating through a whole bunch of things. And I forgot to call it out last week, but like there's a bit where like Charlie, jumps over a crane or something like that, and the stunt guy who's like probably 15 years older looks absolutely nothing like what's his name?
Joshua Jackson.
Josh Jackson, yeah. And it was the same kind of thing in here, but yeah, that very much it is a slapstick bit, but like that slapstick bit reminded or didn't bother me as much because it was
I hated it.
I mean, like it's not a great bit, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But it was in the same vein as their introduction in the first movie, as well as their reintroduction in the second movie of like getting everybody together and they're all skating downhill or skating through different things. I mean, they always because in the second movie they do a big old skating through the Mall of America sequence, which basically got like its plug in all three of the movies at this point. So the first thing that really made me go, oh, this is not one of those that holds up, was when Charlie's talking to the girl petitioning to get the Warriors' name removed from the team. And he's like, Warriors aren't so bad. You got the Indians, the Braves, the Redskins, the Blackhawks. I just wrote, big oof, Charlie. Big oof. Because, oof.
I also, when that scene happened, like, I thought there was going to be, like, a circle back. Like, I thought there was going to be, like, a way bigger thing about that. Like, in a way that, like, there isn't really.
Yeah.
Like, address it. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's almost like suggested that that's why they bet to like make the team name the Ducks, but not really.
But like,
like it was clearly much more about like we want our brand instead of like whatever you guys at Varsity are. Like it could have been something completely non-offensive, and they still would have tried to make it like, hey, we're gonna be the Eden Hall Ducks now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just oof. Yeah. Then you have like, whereas in the other movies you have like, okay, they meet a team that is like they're completely outmatched. Like it, the first one is the first time they face the Hawks, and then the second, I mean, well, they sucked against every team, but like the Hawks really destroy them in the first movie. Then Iceland really destroys them in the second movie. This time they get that like 9-0 lead and then just completely blow it.
I was gonna talk. Yeah, I have a whole thing on this.
Yeah,
if you'll indulge me.
Yeah,
it's
go for it.
Almost like physically impossible to blow a 9-goal lead in one period. Like the amount of it takes so much effort to do that. Like, and it's also so needlessly outlandish, right? Like they could have just had the lead be 3-0 going into the final period. You could still be like, we're smashing them, we're crushing them. Look how great we are, look how dominant we are, look how yada 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 we are. 4-0, I should have been like, okay, like it's an a lot thing, but like sure, but like 9-0 is just such like a outlandish, like there's no way. Because at a certain moment in time, if you're any sort of actual coach, is what he's been like, just all stand in front of the fucking goal. You've blown,
I mean, maybe
what, 3
he did.
goals? You have a 6-shot lead. Just stand there. Like it's such a ridiculous. It was like when
I mean the whole point is that the kids just aren't playing defense. So maybe he tried
like
that.
When it got to like 9-0 in the second, like the end of the second period, going to the last period, I was like, oh okay, yeah. Like in my head, it's like they're gonna win, but they're gonna like blow it and get like 3 like goals and something like that, right? That's what, like I had remembered in my mind for whatever reason. And then like like the guy, the principal or dean, I guess, after they scored their first goal, he's like, that's 1, we'll give him 1. And I was like, how many? And then that's when I was gonna be like, how many do they get though? And it was after they had like this like montage, and I was like, there's no way they're gonna do this though. Yeah. Because for a second I thought they were gonna lose. I was like, are they gonna lose this game? I thought that the point of this is gonna be that they're gonna allow 10 goals in one period. I was like, and so it ended a tie, and I was just like, yeah, it's such a bullshit hockey game. It's like it was clearly designed by somebody who didn't know hockey at all. It was like, what do you talk like 9? Like A, the fact that they could get 9 goals, and B, the fact that they could allow 9 goals in a period. Yeah. Bad. I especially hate that it like completely undermines Julie's ability, like which had been set up as like, she is a, not internationally, but like she is a nationally renowned goalie, and that's why she makes like she gets chosen for the Team USA in the last movie, and then we basically never see her because Goldberg, blah blah blah. And I called that out last week that like Bombay was just kind of being sexist by refusing to put Julie on the ice. And so like this movie at least is like, well, Goldberg is kind of sucking, so Julie's out there, she's gonna be great, and then like just she suddenly completely loses any skill that has been set up for her and lets in 9 goals. And yeah, she like after spending the whole first 2 quarters being like, come on guys, let me do something, blah blah blah, and then like they let her do something and she just fumbles it over and over. I was like, fuck that noise. And then also my note here was Charlie sucks, because Charlie is just like, he is, I made the comparison that he is Atreus in God of War when Atreus is going through his like, I'm a little piece of shit mode in the middle of that game. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, for me, I like the fact that this movie dealt with the fact that Goldberg is an objectively bad goalie. And they were like, hey, like, we're going to replace you. Like, you are going to be on the bench. We're going to have Julie in there because you fucking suck. The whole series, the whole thing has been like, you're not that good, actually. You're not a very good goalie. And, like, he's, like, very aware of this. He's like, yeah, like, I suck. Like, I'm not great. I can't skate. I can't do any other things. I should be the automatic first-team goalie still, though, of course. Yeah. And they're like, no, we're going to put Julie in. And he's got this weird plan to, like, fatten her up, basically, so that she will be not as good. And then, they give it to Julie, and she, blows it. And then not only do they reward Goldberg for being bad, and also kind of a shitty friend to Julie, they then give him the opportunity to score the, like, movie-winning goal basket. It's like, this dude's been bad for 3 movies. What are we doing? Like, there are so many people on the team who are actually, like, good hockey players.
It is absolutely terribly executed, but they do at least put the seeds in there that, like, because he's not playing goalie, he's playing defense, and he's, like, the only one on the team that gets on board with playing defense early on. Like, there's when Hans is listening to one of the games, they're like, Goldberg is, like, the one shining, like, ray of light on this team today because he's been doing a stellar job playing playing defense or whatever. And so that's kind of, like, peppered throughout the movie a little bit to, like, set him up, but that still wouldn't be like, okay, so now we're going to turn him into, like, one of our offensive players for the final sequence. Yeah, it was very much like he's like the other one that, like, everybody recognizes and had done heavy weights and whatnot. And I remember he was on, like, a ton of, like, Nickelodeon and Disney stuff around this time. Like, I remember seeing him on, like, Wild and Crazy Kids a lot when I was growing up. So it was like he's he was the Stiflerification kind of character a little bit. But yeah, it was like there was just a lot of bad stuff in there, including the whole, like, the little sub story bit about them, like, going and getting the fire ants and putting those in. It was just like, oh my god, yep, this is like one part Acme cartoon from Looney Tunes, one part like, because this probably would have been before American Pie or whatever, so it was like, like one part National Lampoon's Animal House or something like that. It was what I was trying to be, and it was just failing a little bit miserably on both. I will say, like, one bit I had forgotten was, like, I knew Varsity was up to something when they did the game or the dinner, but I didn't remember what it was, because I was like, well, if they're really gonna be dicks about it, like, doesn't Banks come in and kind of, like, stop them? And then that doesn't happen, obviously, and it's like, oh nope, we just stuck them with the bill or whatever, and then, like, they just get to work it off. It's like, that's not how that works, guys. Like,
$800
whatever, just whatever. I'm beyond trying to, like, pick holes at this. You get Hans giving one last pep talk to Charlie, like, clearly about to die, Hans. Clearly struggling through that whole scene or whatever. It's just like, okay, yep. I made the reference here, another obligatory Mall of America scene with Fulton and Charlie kind of skipping out. But I will say this, as much as I hate so many parts of this movie, during the Mall of America scene, I'm like, wait a minute, what song is that? Holy shit, is that Bare Naked Ladies, This Is Me in Grade 9 playing right now? It is. Did Trevor's lifelong love of Bare Naked Ladies subconsciously start here 2 years before, 1 week, and stunt? Oh. Maybe it did. I definitely did not know that or, like, pick that up going into it, but I was like, that is definitely Grade 9 from Gordon, their first album, playing there while they're 11? At the. I mean, 96. Yeah, I would have been 11 years old. Yeah, but, like,
so that could have been your first introduction to them, really.
Yeah, because like, obviously their biggest song prior to 1 week would have been If I Had $1 Million, but, like, that I definitely didn't hear that until after knowing 1 week. But, like, 1 week, I would listen, like, I would record it on a tape on my radio, and then I would, like, play it back and, like, write down the lyrics, because I didn't realize that if I just went and bought the CD, I'd have the liner notes in it.
I love that.
But yeah, I was like, holy shit, that's some Bare Naked Ladies, Grade 9 right there.
Preteen Trevor Starkey story. I want more of that. But yeah, I mean, it's not good, right? No. Like, it's just, like, objectively not a good movie, and I think it is sort of what happens with a lot of series like this over time, right? Like, when you get to, I think, this third, or God forbid if you do, like, a fourth or fifth one, or sixth or seventh if you're Police Academy, it's just hard to maintain that, right? Like, I think,
I mean, hey,
especially because, like,
we're about to finally get Fast 9, so, it's a crapshoot, really.
We don't like that series. I've on the record.
I think it is a very stupid series. It's a very fun series, but Tokyo Drift is absolutely the worst of them, and I will Tokyo Drift is terrible.
I've been on the record and have a ranking on the internet out there and have been on numerous shows and said it, that like the series' best movie was the first one. They've all been unnecessary and anywhere from like that was fun to this is one of the worst things I've seen, and everywhere in between. And so I think, and they're just gonna make another one after that, I think, right? Because they're going to 10.
There's 10. Yep.
I mean, it's just like it's hard to sustain that, right?
I mean, at that point, they had to get to fast 10 your seatbelts. So, I mean, like, we clearly need that one. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it is absolutely your point of like it's hard to keep the momentum up in a trilogy, especially one like this. Like, I mean, like even. One of my favorites of all time, of course, Back to the Future, like drastically changes things up in each movie in terms of like setting and style to like give some kind of like freshness to the series, and this one really kind of doesn't. We do get
Back to the Future on. Is that a Disney?
No. Back to the Future is, I believe, Universal.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
I believe it's on Netflix right now. At least that's like I'm pretty sure the last place I watched it.
Back to the Future is so good.
Absolutely. We have Hans, of course, passing away here. No mention of Jan. Jan doesn't come back at all. And then I also made the note. I was like, did the Goodwill Games ducks even know Hans? Like, because they're all there at his funeral, and it's like they like, they're coming
2
from
years,
like
right?
they're coming
like,
from,
that's the thing.
but like. I mean, it's been 2 years in like real time, but Charlie's like, I'm 14 years old. I'm like, how long has it been in the series? Like, did they even defend their title? Or did they basically like they played?
No,
and then
they were so young in the first movie.
I mean, obviously, yes. Obviously 4 years in like real life has passed and they can't hide that in their ages. But like, we don't. Like they don't define the timeline of the series. So like my kind of read of it is like the Ducks win, then they spend the summer at the Junior Goodwill Games, and then they come back as like scholarships.
No,
and they get
I
this
don't
prep
read
school.
it like that.
Because like Gordon's like, have you guys not been practicing in the off season? Like what the hell?
I took that as like the off season since the Goodwill Games maybe, but like. Even that, like, in my head, I view it as, like, yeah, they're actually taking the years into account because you have to because these are kids, so they just grow so much. Where it is, like, yeah, like, the first one takes place when they're freshmen here. So 4 years, that's ninth grade would be, like, they're like fifth graders in the first movie. They're, like, fifth or sixth graders. And then it's basically, like, each year that follows up from there, right? Because, like, stupid, like, how much they're talking about, like, the Ducks are a thing. It makes it be, like, oh, like, they had, like, defended their title and like D5 or whatever like a few times and had done the Goodwill Games and were like a big deal and had done this for like a few years, and then now we're like they gave the entire team except for one player a scholarship to their school.
Yeah.
Which is something I've never heard of before, where they just give an entire team a scholarship somewhere, but nonetheless they did it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I don't know. I still stand by like they don't define it well enough, so I'm left to be
that's
confused.
Definitely true.
Trying to think, do I have any other like I appreciate because I made notes earlier on that like Orion's not being like a bad guy. He's just like he's not Gordon, and so everybody's like super resistant towards him. But like he even has like I'm trying to teach you a life lesson about defense kind of thing, and you guys just aren't listening to me. So it takes Gordon coming in being like, well, here's the real story about why this guy's a good guy and you should stop like giving him shit. And then it's immediately like Charlie wants to come back on the team. The dean is like, hey, we're revoking all of your scholarships. And the coach is immediately like, no, I'm going to fight that. And, if that means you're going to fire me, then fire me. And then the dean's like, all right, well, we're firing you. And then like it's only saved because Gordon goes back to being a lawyer for, a 1 day kind of spat here. But then he does tease going out to get Portman. So Gordon comes back an hour into the movie. Portman, when he comes back, is back with 10 minutes to go. I paused it to like look at the timer of him coming back. And one of the things of trivia is like, contrary to popular belief, Portman is in the opening sequence of like all the kids getting the scholarships, and then just bails because he's like, well, Gordon's not coming, so Portman didn't come along too.
Is he really?
But he's apparently he's in that. He's in the montage of like all the kids at the podium getting
that'd be sneaky. I mean, they reference it, so I guess it's possible.
Yeah,
it's really interesting that they were doing.
And I have no idea like why he is written out for most of the movie. I don't know if like he did. It didn't seem like he was doing anything else like notable around the time or whatever. But yeah, you get the Bash Brothers reunited for all of like a minute, and then Portman's out for the last 2 minutes of the game and just starts doing a striptease. And it's like, this kid's supposed to be a teenager in high school. Stop screaming at him, ladies. This is really uncomfortable and really awkward.
A freshman.
And then and Goldberg.
Maybe we'll give Goldberg. The Bash Brothers are like a year older or something, but still.
Yeah, I mean, like there was a line in D2 of like, is he really in high school or whatever? And they're like, he's really a teenager. So that, but like, and I like, in actual life, he was only 17. He turned 18 a week after the D2 came out. But again, like they don't really tell us the ages of people or anything like that. And then Goldberg gets the winning shot, and it's like, what happened? What? Boo. Yeah, this was real dumb. This was a real dumb movie, and just like angry. I was just kind of angry watching it.
Because I just watched the movie right before we record this. It's all very fresh for me, and it is that thing of like, I went in with tempered expectations. Like I didn't like this movie as a kid. Even I was like, this isn't. And like part of that was like, I liked Emilio Estevez and I liked Bombay, and so like I was upset that he wasn't in the movie more, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, this movie's not that great. I knew that kind of coming in. My expectations were set. I wasn't expecting to be like as great as the first one. I think as fun. I still think the second one's fun. I was like, it'll be like fine, probably. It'll be just like, not exciting and maybe like slow paced.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's just not a good movie. Like that's like the biggest disappointment. Like it just doesn't work really on any level, and I think it's just such a like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this sucks that like that's the end of the trilogy a little bit, where it's like this is just, it kind of just peters out like that.
Yeah, they try and basically like recapture all of the fun moments in that like lead up to the 9-0 lead. Like basically the first two periods of that game are like, let's do the knuckle puck. Let's do Fulton slap shot. Let's do the flying V. Let's do the greatest hits of everything. Let's do all the things that you came to see this movie for. And then it's just and then they don't like replace it with anything fun. Or they did like the lasso bit at the beginning at the first practice or whatever.
And then we're like, defense is important too, which it is, but it's not as much fun to watch.
Yeah,
is the problem with it.
Yeah.
And so it's a letdown. I think, we talked a little bit in the first movie's episode where, like, how does the first Mighty Ducks compare to the, like, first Karate Kid? And, like, I think there is, like, actually, like, a legitimate conversation to be had about which one of those two movies is better. I think where there's not a conversation to be had is in terms of how, like, the third movie's fair, right? Like, the third Karate Kid movie is not, like, the best Karate Kid movie. I don't think anybody would argue that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it is still, like, that is a movie that is enjoyable to watch, right? Like, it's good enough.
It has karate. It has Pat Morita. Pat Morita is still in it and still pretty
very
prominent in it.
Yeah. Yeah, whereas if you come to this one, it's like, this movie is just not good. And, like, that's the thing, like, I know it seems like we're being hyperbolic about a 25-year-old movie, but, like, it's really not good. Like, I encourage anyone who's listening to this episode. Well, I don't encourage you to, but like, go watch. It's like not fun. Like, it's not a fun watch, really. It's like the problem. Like, it doesn't even like have that going for it.
It's not
like,
geared towards us,
of an hour and a half. Yeah.
But by this point, it was like, hey, it was geared towards us 20 years ago. It was geared towards 8-year-old Trevor that didn't, 11-year-old Trevor, I guess, that like wouldn't have registered that they're throwing in cartoon sound effects. Doesn't care that they're like, it's ha ha ha. The guy pulled out manure. It's like Back to the Future, and he looks like Biff. It was like it's that. It's. I mean, it's not great, but it is like it's a dumb kids movie. Yeah. Whereas like the first movie like surpassed being a dumb kids movie. Like it has elements of a dumb kids movie, but at its heart, it is like a good story about Gordon's kind of growth, which he basically sums up in this movie, as you kind of alluded, in the best scene of the movie of like he was down and out, and then he got arrested and met these kids, and they changed his life or whatever.
It's such a good moment too, right? Like that's the thing. Like,
I
wish we just
it led him to
that.
being like getting this great job with the Goodwill Games or whatever. And it's like, so yeah, like his adventures outside of this movie are a way better story for him than the little glimpse we get of him in this.
Yeah. I agree.
It is very interesting watching the new series that is out, the Game Changers, which again is very much in the Cobra Kai-ification of the Ducks, effectively, because Gordon, like it took a couple episodes, but Gordon does have I want to say in the third episode of that series, has kind of like a monologue at the end to like fill us in on like why he has become like cynical and angry and against hockey again, but like already, he's warming up to these kids. He's finding like fun little moments to like be Gordon of D1 in particular, and so yeah, I'm enjoying that series as it's going. I'm interested to see where it continues to go, but it does a better job of like recapturing the magic of the first movie than D2 or D3 did. So like right now, if I were to rank the things, I would basically be like, all right, yeah, Mighty Ducks 1 is the top of the list, and then the show so far, and then like D2, and then just like way down below is D3. And like I never like enjoyed the animated series as a kid or anything, because I was like, they're just ducks from space. That what? No. Yeah. So like I'm not even gonna rank that, but like I mean that like given the quality of this movie, like I gotta guess that the animated series is probably like somewhere below D2 and well above this movie, because this is just bad. This was just rough. I said before we started talking, like this might be the worst thing we've watched for that D+ show.
We'll always have Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off.
I mean, but like Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off is like bad at the scale it is bad at. This was like a nationally released and like in theaters movie. Yeah. This was just bad at a whole other level than Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off. That said, I am reminded of like the not one but two food fights in Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off and how dumb that was too. So let us go ahead and grade it here, where we grade from A+ to F. Logan, hit me with your grade for this one.
I feel like I've been really lucky on D+. It helps that we pick the movies and TV shows, where I don't know if I've ever given anything lower than like a C or a C+. I'd really be hard pressed to think of anything I would have. I mean, like I would give this a D+, right? Like funny. I'd give it a D+, right? Like it is such a failure of, I think, what it aims to be, of what it's trying to do. I think it doesn't really do a lot of the characters any service. Charlie in particular, I don't love for much of the movie. Banks, again, is like, he never just be a good person for some reason in the series. Yeah.
There were a couple other little bits of trivia, like one tying into the Terry Hall character not being in here anymore was like, all of that character's attributes are like put onto Charlie in this movie. He was kind of a little more edgy. He was good at offense, which Charlie has never been in the series. Charlie was always like more one of the defenders in the previous episodes, and so yeah, it was like they were like, maybe that played a role in it or something like that, and I was like, whatever. And then another little bit of trivia was like, last movie, oddly enough, was the one Adam Banks isn't in conflict on. Obviously in the first one he has to choose between the Ducks and the Hawks, and then this one he has to choose between varsity and JV. And yeah, it's just like, why is that dude always conflicted? Have a nice moment, yeah. and in the second game he like gets like his like wrist broken by a shit player. Yeah.
It's a thing too, like, and he never gets a choice. He just like is like you're gonna be on this team now, and you're gonna be on this team now. There's no sort of agency to him. It's like, leave the poor kid alone, all right? No, I mean, I think the movie's a failure of what it tries to do and what it aims to do. I don't think it's that fun or enjoyable to watch. Like, I think it's just, like, not great. It's saved in part from a lower ranking by me because of Gordon and Charlie's scenes, I think, and, like, kind of both him recapping his own journey and then also kind of showing Charlie more of the human side of their new coach. I think that worked really well, and I wish we'd had more of that in the movie. We unfortunately don't, and so yeah, I would give it a D+, which is, I don't have to think about it, the lowest I'm pretty positive I've given a movie on this podcast.
Yeah, I've given a couple D+ in the past, because I also did the which one was it? It was the superhero movie. With like Richard Townsend and stuff. I did that one, and like somebody else was supposed to watch it with me and then bail last minute, and so I think I ended up doing that one alone or something. But yeah, I can't even give this one a D+. Like this gets my first F.
Like this, doing it! We're doing it, guys.
I hated so much sitting down and watching this one.
What did you give Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off? We have to go back to
the at some point I've like teased in my own mind of like going back and like creating a doc of like, here are all the grades I've given everything, because it's a crapshoot. It's like, you know, like there's no real consistency or whatever. It's just whatever I'm feeling in the day. But yeah, like Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off was maybe a D+, but it was probably like because even that, like I was like, I'm judging it through the lens of a Disney Channel original movie.
An original movie.
So like I probably gave it like a C or something like that, I feel like. Yeah, I don't remember which other ones I gave like a D+ to, but I know I've given a couple D+ over
Darby
over
O'Gill?
the series. No, Darby O'Gill wasn't one, because there was another one. Like, it did fine of what it was trying to do. It was just like a very different time.
It's got Sean Connery in it.
It had Sean Connery in it. Inhumans was another one I probably have like given a really bad score to, because I definitely watched that. But yeah, it was like this is the bottom of the barrel for me, and I'm glad there was not a D4. I'm glad they let it like lie for 25 years and then looked at Cobra Kai and were like, hey, maybe we could try doing that. So we'll see where that series continues to go. As I said, we might do a wrap up when the season of Game Changers is done. I'm enjoying that as part of like my weekly routine. In addition to like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Invincible and stuff like that, just having like Friday being like, oh, I can watch a new episode of the Mighty Ducks show. It's always like the bottom of the things that I'm watching. It's the last of the things I'm watching, but it's still a fun thing to be watching on a weekly basis right now. So shout out to that. A little bit of extra credit. Other suggestions, if you did somehow like this one, it's pretty much the same list as the last, as D2. You've got Mighty Ducks, The Game Changers, The Mighty Ducks, first movie, D2, The Mighty Ducks, the animated series, Going to the Mat, which, as I mentioned last week, is one of the movies with, I believe, Andy Lawrence, the youngest of the Lawrence brothers. You have Jump In with Corbin Bleu from High School Musical, Cloud 9, and The Game Plan, featuring The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Extracurriculars, did you sit down and watch anything else on Disney Plus, Logan? Or did you really just kind of hop in, waste your time with some D3, and then bounce?
I wasted my time with D3, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think... I've not watched anything else on Disney Plus. I might need to after this, but no, I have not. I've been getting back into a lot of RKG's old videos. We're not even old videos, just like catching up because I fell behind a little bit. I like to sometimes like stockpile YouTube content creator like podcast feeds, even kind of funny, and that way then I can just kind of like binge through them over like a week or so.
Yeah.
I've kind of been doing that right now. But no, the next thing I'll probably check out on D+, Loki's coming out soon. That'll be exciting. That's like a Disney Plus series I'm really excited about.
I think I'll
finally check out
Falcon and Winter Soldier ends tonight as we're recording this. So you've got 6 episodes of that. You could probably like if you really wanted to, you could crank that out over the weekend or something. And
I was
given
gonna say, I
given
can check
your
that out.
immense love of the Winter Soldier in particular, I think you'd really like
And Captain America.
Yeah, I mean Captain America in general, but yeah, like the Winter Soldier in particular, I know is like what your top of the top MCU movies.
Yeah, I think it's just like pretty clearly the best.
It-
like not like Endgame's such a weird movie to like. I don't think it's
of course,
really.
yeah.
But like Winter Soldier is the best movie for sure.
Yeah.
Out of them.
I think you would really, in particular, enjoy Falcon Winter Soldier series because it's just been a great look at like what makes Captain America.
This is what I was going to say. I've loved
without like Steve really.
Yeah, I've loved to see like, and the internet's been really good about Falcon and Winter Soldier. At least Twitter has been for me in terms of like not really any spoilers.
I've loved to. It's not as much a spoilery kind of thing compared to like WandaVision was.
Read a lot of the, like the different like critiques and interpretations of Falcon and Winter Soldier and like what it means to be Captain America, like what it means to just what America almost means in some ways. And I've really enjoyed reading a lot of those. So I'm sure once I watch it too, and then I'm kind of given that better understanding because is it half an hour like WandaVision or is it like an hour?
It's
40 minutes.
It's more 45 minutes. Like the last episode was almost an hour.
Okay.
So I mean, like when all is said and done, it's probably a 4.5 hours across 6 episodes. Again, I don't know how long this last episode is going to be, but I like the things I would say to it is it does a great job of like being a real examination of what it means to be Captain America, what it means for someone like Sam to be Captain America, a black man to be Captain America, and there's in particular it touches on a story from the comics about Isaiah Bradley, who was basically a black soldier from World War II era that was experimented on with the super soldier serum. And it's like his story is very much like an allegory for the Tuskegee experiments.
The airmen, yeah.
And like they don't like to Disney's credit, they don't shy away from that. They're doing a pretty good job of confronting, race in America head on. Like I'm sure, like of course they could go further with it, obviously with the headlines we see kind of every day these days, but especially for like a Disney thing, it's impressive how full on they're confronting it. And yeah, just really great series. So I definitely think you'd get a kick out of it. When you finally sit down and watch it. So, I'm very much looking forward to the final episode, coming out in 4 or 5 hours from now as of recording. Yeah. So, and I'll be staying up to sit down and watch that. So, well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. I imagine I'm going to try and do a season wrap up of Falcon and Winter Soldier next week's show, and I just want to try and bring some guests on to do it. So that's tentatively the plan for next week's episode. Thank you, Logan, for joining me to sit down and talk about D3 The Mighty Ducks. Sorry it wasn't a better time.
Absolutely.
But at least it was fun sitting down and ragging on it with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can follow Logan at Lefty Logie. Anything you want to give a shout out to, Logan? Yeah, my second piece this month has gone live, so I'm now 4 for 4 the year. Sure, okay. No, I mean, I didn't do one in March, but I did 2 in April to make up for it, so I feel okay with that. Kind of hit my goal of at least 1 a month, but the Western Conference MLS rankings went live. That was fun. I've written a lot more recently. And I'm enjoying getting kind of back into that again. That was one of my big New Year's resolutions, was to write more. So go check that out over on the internet. Thatnerdysite.com would be. I saw someone gave it like a in word on the site. I didn't even know there's a thing you could do. Yeah. Like articles, but so that's fun. So they give it a like to the Eastern Conference one. But so go check that out. Go read the Eastern Conference piece as well, and all of the written content up there at that nerdy site. Also go check out myself and Trevor's Let's Plays of It Takes Two.
They've been a lot of fun. I don't know if one went live this week as a recording. I think we did instead 2 things from Cam.
No.
They did go live on Tuesday?
Part 5 of It Takes Two went live.
Time is a flat circle.
On Tuesday.
Okay, so yeah, go check that out as well. And then Cameron's second episode of his Emily's Away 3 Let's Play went live today as a recording, yesterday as of you listening to this. So go check that out as well. And go check out actually our Emily's Away spoiler cast as well. I really enjoyed, I can't speak for Trevor, but I really enjoyed the conversation that the 3 of us had about that game and what makes it so special.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, and I kind of echo all that. Check out the Let's Plays on the YouTube, as well as Mondays. That Nerdy Site show was our spoiler cast. And also this week's That News You Care About was Logan and I talking about the DICE Awards, which happened this morning, and we ended up tying. So no,
what a joke!
no dominoes for either of us that we
didn't build a tiebreak on that one.
Oh well, I'm sure we'll both have dominoes in the next week or two anyway. Just because that's who we are. You can follow all of the latest from us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, subscribe, ring the notification bell on YouTube, all that stuff. And if you do feel so inclined, you can always support us on Patreon, patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Helps keep the lights on, pay for the podcast feeds, all that fun stuff, all that little administrative stuff we need to kind of keep churning out the content, because we do a lot of it. We do 3 podcasts a week, plus a couple Let's Plays every week. I'm really proud of like especially the last 6 months where we've kind of had that ready schedule going. Definitely, I'm a good content producer, kinking out like 5+ things a week. Huzzah! Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and we actually get to say it for this one, Logan.
Hell yeah!
Class dismissed.
Class dismissed.